every gig you did, somebody came and tell you, oh, that was great, you know. You thought you were fine. Whereas in Cork, you probably didn't have that as much. There was probably the bands themselves and a few friends, but I don't know if there was that big a supportive audience. And I think they felt in order to do anything they were going to have to get out. Although Disney and Nun Attax played in Dublin, they weren't that interested in breaking Dublin. They knew they had to go further afield.
Filed by her front door, that smile, silly smile at the cement that drops on the ground. Sometimes she dreams about Hollywood, sips turpentine to excess. Bob, oh dear Bob, when you gonna get a job?
When I first heard Five Down to Sea, I was a Dubliner, and I saw them in the Magnet on Pearse Street. So I saw them as a bunch of mad cultures, but like absolutely mad cultures. They were the first country people who I actually had time for, you know. They had short haircuts, they looked mean, they drank a lot, they slept in their clothes, they woke up and they worked in their clothes. They were playing it for keeps, and it was obvious they were playing it for keeps, that they weren't just working in pop music because they thought it'd be a nice way to advance their career. Some people have a special aura, I'll say, for want of a better word, and it just comes off, it shines, you know, and they had it in spades. Their music was great, it was two fingers to the world. They had an imagination that was all of their own, but it was all the time. It was mixing avant-garde with the country. I couldn't believe that such a thing could happen. I thought that if you had avant-garde, it had to come from the biggest city. I didn't think that if you had something this avant-garde, it couldn't be from the country, and it couldn't be from people who would claim to be inarticulate, because these people were as articulate in their own way. They were able to express what they wanted to express in a bizarre manner, in a manner that communicated when cut out all the middleman stuff, just went straight to the heart of the matter.
Because the thing you can't ignore, and I don't want to sound patronising about all of this, you can't ignore the fact that they came from a part of Cork where people were treated like subhumans for hundreds of years. I mean, Gran and Formely didn't exist a couple of hundred years before, but, you know, the kind of working class people who were their ancestors, were their parents, their grandparents, had nothing but their humour to get them through a crap everyday way of life in a rancid fucking port town. Whose reason for existing had all but evaporated by the time we'd grown up.
It wasn't happening, so time to uproot and go and try it. And like it was a bit of a hard struggle at the start over there, to be honest with you, like, because it was like, if you could remember the time in the early 80s where there was nothing, like there was nothing here, there was nothing over there either, so there was no work involved, we couldn't do anything, and I say for about a year we were going around on the breadline basically, like squatting it basically, yeah. When we eventually got a gig, it was Abstract came along trying to make a record. Grand sound, how much did you give us? It never came to money, like, but we went to the League Club then, which was kind of the start of kind of a small hardcore following in England. Most of the following seemed to be up around the Midlands of England, or beyond that even Yorkshire, Leeds and all them kind of people used to. The gigs in London nearly always were a disaster, to be honest with you, like they didn't want to make us, you see. You know, going to the odd time we'd be invited to a record company opening party and like, fuck off, you know, we couldn't talk to these people just in the way they wanted us to talk back to them, because it just wasn't on, like, we wasn't in our way, like we couldn't, you know, these record company people, like they just wanted a certain way of talking or to deal with them, and like, I couldn't, and definitely Donnelly couldn't, like.
Send them flowers in the
We hooked into the whole kind of living room scene, the early creation scene. They were very much sort of fans of Micro Disney and If I Could Enter the Sea. So we kind of started doing kind of shows and sort of for Anna McGee and people like that, 1983, 1984. And there was a kind of a bit of a synchronicity about our sort of existence in London, which included sort of the early creation, which was very much, the early creation was like, to get a record company, it was very much like a sort of, magazine, a venue, a bunch of people. We never recorded for them, but as you know, If I Could Enter the Sea eventually did.
Like there was a band called the Fire Engines, Leeds, great band, and you'd hear all the guitar influences there. Mekons, obviously. Mekons. There was a crowd called Bogshed. I could think of more now, but there was a few of them around that were quite innovative at the time, like. But the fact that we came from Ireland, like they thought we were from Blarney, like out of the village in the middle of nowhere, like they didn't know what to make of it. Yeah.
In the 80s, the first worthwhile, in inverted commas, musical movement that came out of the British Isles was New Romanticism. And all New Romanticism was dress up in foppish clothes. That might make sense to you if you've got an awful lot of disposable income and if you're running around in a flash and trendy place like London. But if you're outside London, that means nothing to you. So anything that can speak to you, that you can call your own, it's going to become so important to you because it's articulating where you are, the place you feel in the world. And that's why If I Go Down to the Sea means so much to so many people. But it's part of the reason. The other part of the reason is there was just so much good fun live. Even though, to look at them, they look like a bunch of skinheads. Live, they had a sense of fun which was contagious. It just spread around the audience.
They do the gigs completely pissed off their heads. They're all mental, wild people, but they're incredible musicians. And then they wrote these like most complex, amazing songs that showed us that there's a fierce intelligence in there. Some people they're so intelligent they just go crazy. That's what they were like. They were just like misfits, and then they looked wonderful as well. They're just like a load of mad guys had wandered up from the hills, and just like wandered into rock and roll. They didn't want to be an underground band. Nobody wants to be an underground band. They thought they were Thin Lizzy. They thought they were a heavy metal band. You just knew that in their heads. They're thinking, we are a proper rock and roll rocking band, and everyone's going, oh, fag and see, aren't they nutters making this great mad music? And they're thinking, they're probably going, no, you don't. There's nothing mad about us. We are rock. That's what they thought in their heads. Saw them one night in Preston, and they turned up with just a drum machine, and they couldn't get the drum machine to go in time with the guitars. They just played along with the drum machine. There was ridiculous beats, pre-programmed beats all joined together. And it was still amazing. And some people just have like, this music just go through their blood. That's what they were like, If by some sort of weird quirk of fate, If I Go Down to Sea had staggered into the limelight, and it would have worked for them. They made me seem completely insane in 1984, but so did the Happy Mondays, and so did loads of other groups. And some groups get through, some groups don't, and it was a tragedy that they could never hold it together long enough. But like most bands go, oh, I'm really mad, I'm really insane, I'm crazy, I do crazy things. But no, they don't. They get a little drunk and maybe have a fight with the drummer. But Fagancy did all those crazy things, didn't they?
Some of the stories are grossly exaggerated, and some of them are not exaggerated enough. Some of them, they were a lot worse than what people are saying, and some of them are the other way around. But basically, it's fairly true. All right, he was on the mint chicken. All right.
He didn't care. He didn't have any fixed idea what he was looking for in business terms. I mean, Nun Attax used to have this expression, somebody was a businessist, Philip's the businessist. Because Philip had some interest in getting gigs and stuff like that. Philip's the business, Philip's a langer. So, if you were that was the theorem basically. Ipso facto, if you were a business, you were a langer.
They were sort of people that you'd sort of look up